away from all the noise as an earnest campaigner is wrong. And in the case of Richie, he's wrong because he's paid to be wrong. And in the case of all the Democrats, actually, as well, they are paid to be wrong on this. They are paid to try and desperately make this issue either invisible or an issue where you can only say pro-Israel shit. Oh, this is a good take. Good take, Jay Mershon. By the way, AIPAC spent $4 million in mailers against their opponent in the 2022 primary. How AIPAC isn't about Judaism, Exhibit A. I remember this now. Okay, this makes sense. Her opponent was Jewish. Haley Stevens is not Jewish. Stevens beats Levin in Michigan with over $4 million worth of help from AIPAC. The debate helped them farm clips on Israel. The debate NBC mods helped them with all those follow-up questions. No, I like, even for people that are not as like laser focused on Israel and its genocide like we are, right? For a lot of people, they kind of understand, even the most like under a rock, I was just in a coma and just woke up as individual, they have seen that Israel's doing a lot of things that they consider to be pretty violent. Maybe they don't see it as genocide or whatever, but they're like, yeah, this is like kind of fucked up. But more importantly than that, for the average American, okay, they not only see that, but then they see how people are communicating. They see how big media figures are talking about this issue and trying to constantly fucking censor people or shame people for having these opinions that many people share. And that is creating a lot of negative polarization. Okay? That is creating a lot of negative polarization. At this stage, even if you are fucking not earnestly anti-Israel, saying that you're anti-Israel immediately offers you benefits. It makes you look like a real figure because it makes you look like a real anti-establishment figure. It makes you look like you are channeling the overwhelming majority's position on this issue against a sea of defenders of Israel, both in the media and in politics. Okay? Make no mistake, being anti-Israel openly and communicating that you are anti-Israel openly and earnestly only reaffirms your position as an honest person, a position as a different kind of politician than what people have seen. It is basically the Trump going on stage or in the Republican primaries and saying, I paid for every single one of these guys. I paid into the campaign funds. I bought as a billionaire.
Hillary Clinton from Michigan as well.
God. Oh, thank God. Let's get to the issue that really matters. Zohran Mamdani. And all of the worst Democrats that you just fucking rattled off, half of them literally CIA agents, okay, are very upset. All the fucking big movers and shakers in the Democratic Party. Incredible. Here's a remarkable stat showing the Zohran effect. The account Richie Torres hasn't tweeted either the word Israel or Hamas since June 18th, 14 days ago. That is the longest stretch by 7 days that Torres has not tweeted one of those words since October 7th, 2023. Wow. Wow. Mamdani Mania. Delivering endless bounty here. Why'd he stop posting about Israel so much, bro? I thought that was the most important constituency. Huh. No, what is he, anti-Semitic? He started again after this tweet? Oh my God. That is fucking insane. That's so much money, dude. What the fuck?
Over the course of the last week, we've asked all of them what they think of his race. All of them have said they didn't want to touch it. They didn't want to say, They didn't want to comment on New York politics. But our politicians, our Democratic politicians who are not looking at that race and trying to learn something, if not about his policies, about the way he communicated his policies, missing something. It doesn't sound particularly authentic to say, this guy is up there running, but we don't know it in the New York City, but actually we're not going to comment on how he ran.
I feel like there's a difference between praising the man and his policies and praising the manner in which he ran his campaign. I mean, when it comes to how he ran his campaign, like, he's genuinely a singular figure. I mean, he turned out 200,000 voters ages 18 to 44 for the first time were 50% of the electorate in New York City in a mayoral election. It was the highest turnout from 1989. Like, we do have an obligation to learn from his race. And I suspect he won not because...
Yeah, it's because he said, fuck Israel. Israel can suck my dick. He said, Israel can lick my dick and my balls. And everyone under the age of 50 was like, I love that. This is a message that is resonating with me. Yeah, what do you make of that? What do you make of that? Richie? Bend the fucking knee, bitch. Obviously, I'm joking. That's not the only reason. But that does definitely play a major role. Anyone that says Israel didn't play a major role in improving Zoran's standing as a singular force, as a person who was capable of cutting
100% happy. It's impossible. This is a deliberative body. It's a legislative process. By definition, all of us have to give up on our personal preferences. I never got to ask anybody to...
So we can unify around tax cuts for the wealthy and killing the working poor. Come on, guys. You can't make everybody happy, but there's one thing that we're here to do, which is melt the poor. Get on board. You're a goddamn Republican. This is what we're here for.
compromise core principles, but preferences must be yielded for the greater good, and that's what I think people are recognizing and coming to grips with. And this is part of the process. It's a consensus building operation, has been from day one. This is the culmination of 14 months worth of work, and I believe we're going to deliver this, get the ball over the goal line. So stay tuned.
All right, on that note, let's bring in Democratic Congressman Richie Torres of New York. He's a member of the Financial Services Committee. Congressman, always good to talk to you. Let's pick up that conversation about Medicaid cuts. I think it's important to bring these massive bills that can get so confusing and have so many different things in it to the street level. Let's go to the South Bronx and the district you represent. If this bill passes through the House, as most people expect it will, what does that mean for the residents?
Wait. He represents South Bronx? Is that a district of Tel Aviv? I'm confused. It's shocking because as a Richie Torres fan, I look at his output all the time. I love how he tweets. And he's always tweeting about Israel, so I just assumed that he was a representative of the District of Tel Aviv. Interesting.
Residents of the South Bronx, for the people in your district.
Have you been to Brooklyn or the Bronx in your life? Yes. Also, your name is Roll Tide Alabama fan. Of course, dude. What the fuck? Like, you're not talking about like fucking Missouri. You're talking about Brooklyn or the Bronx. Of course, I've been to both. I went to Alabama, but I'm from Flatbush. Roll Tide. Actually, fuck that chatter. War Eagle. War damn Eagle. Hell yeah, baby.
Well, look, the so-called big, beautiful bill represents a betrayal of the working people of America, and nowhere more so than in the Bronx. When America sneezes, the Bronx gets the flu. The Bronx is going to be the hardest hit by the $1 trillion cut to Medicaid and children's health care. It's going to destabilize every healthcare provider, every hospital in my district. I have the highest rate of Medicaid enrollment in the country, 67%. So more than 70% of children, more than 80% of nursing home residents, more than 90% of baby deliveries are covered by Medicaid, which is going to be gutted at the hands of Donald Trump's so-called big, beautiful bill. So it's a catastrophe for the working people of the Bronx.
You know, we've heard when challenged on this, leadership and members of the Trump administration dismissive of kind of what you laid out right there and said there's a lot of bloat in our entitlement system. We're merely making it more efficient. We're taking some of the burden off of the federal government. How do you respond to the claims by Republicans that say, oh, the concerns about this bill are overblown? It's going to create an economic explosion with these tax cuts.
Interesting. Richie Torres, who is, who was supposed to be a progressive when he first ran, BIPOC, bisexual, progressive congressperson, is over here talking about Medicaid and how poor his district is. His district is the poorest in the country. Now, it's odd because most of his advocacy revolves around reappropriating funds to a country that actually has comprehensive free health care. Israel is the country I'm talking about. So that Israel doesn't have to waste a single dollar on their own defense. We got that covered for them so they can spend all their money on their own health care and their free college. So confused by Richie Torres is, he's not bi, he identifies as gay. Oh, I thought he was bisexual. My bad. Sorry. Confused about this messaging because he's constantly talking about how much money Israel needs.
It's at the top of the economy for wealthy people. How do you respond to that?
Well, first of all the revenue that Republicans expect to generate from the cost cutting is simply going to be cannibalized by the higher interest payments on the debt. So the legislation at its core is a radical redistribution of wealth from the poor to the rich and from the American people to bondholders. And second, it's going to make Medicaid less efficient. So the work requirements on paper are actually paperwork requirements in practice. Experience tells us that work requirements simply leads to more paperwork. In 2018, the state of Arkansas put in place a work requirements program causing 18,000 people to lose access to health care. The majority of those people were working people who were eligible for Medicaid. And so experience tells us that work requirements will simply cause people to lose health care. It will simply bureaucratize Medicaid.
What does this mean for you politically for the next 2 years? J. Mart was talking about the cost of this to Republicans in the midterm elections. How do you see this playing out for Democrats? What should Democrats be doing? How should they be talking about this bill?
Look, the Republican reconciliation bill is not only bad morals, it's bad politics. It's going to cause 12 million people to lose their health care. It's going to slash Medicaid by $1 trillion, which is the largest health care cut in history.
In your district, how will people feel that between now and the midterms?
I think people will feel an overwhelming sense of betrayal.
Yeah. Okay, can we switch to the midterms on New York State, because you're thinking about, obviously, your own political future, Congressman. The LG of New York, Antonio Delgado, is already in the race challenging incumbent Governor Kathy Hochul. Where is your head on next year? And are you planning to run for re-election or thinking about statewide still?
I'm unlikely to run.
For governor?
I feel like the assault that we've seen on the social safety in the Bronx is so unprecedented, so overwhelming, that I'm going to keep my focus on Washington, D.C. So my heart lies with Washington, D.C. I feel like now more than ever, we have to fight the catastrophe that is the Trump presidency.
Well, that's news.
On the question,
It's not, because he said he won't run for governor if Zoran wins mayor. That's what the reason is.
Mamdani, we have spoken to Abigail Spanberger, Alyssa Slotkin,